Truth, Peace, Hotep, Big 1961. Okay, this is the part two video to social and spiritual consciousness. And before I gave examples of social consciousness, and now I'm going to give my viewpoint and position on spiritual consciousness. Um, I became spiritually conscious through a series of, at first they were deja vu events, where, they would come through dreams or just really, points in time and space, which is the cross, where um, I would remember situations and understand that that situation through a series of events, cause and effect, uh, had to come about. But the first one that I do remember, it was a dream about uh, being in a church, and there was a coffin. It had a veil over the coffin, and in the coffin there was somebody. I couldn't recognize who it was, but I knew they had been shot, and they had been shot in the eye. Now these recollections happened when we made a move from uh, one part of the Bronx to the other, and I know that some people who did some historical background on this area said that it used to have Indians inhabit this part of the Bronx, because I lived in the Bronx. But uh, this particular spiritual happening, I was like, I was a little bit unnerved about it. And I remember it happened. I don't know, it was maybe before we moved there, but the actual event happened after we had moved. And it was, somebody who was very close to our family. And I remember walking into the church, and then I realized they had that mesh net up, because at the time, because this was in the, it had to be 73. And it didn't unnerve me. And I believe at that time I was asking my mother about, these type of things, and she said it runs in our family. I didn't get into deep into with her, but she said it ran into our family. And then I had a series of other events that happened, and spiritual things where uh, I was doing my social thing, and you know, all I know is that I have had spiritual connections with in this realm of existence that I honor and respect. And I know I was having a conversation with a sister, and she was telling me how she hadn't had these, but to me, I could feel the spirituality coming from the sister. Now, not everybody has spiritual situations or intuitiveness in this realm. You know, I have learned a long time ago, everything isn't for everybody. But I'm not going to uh, disclaim your spiritual happening, because in all actuality, things are real to each other. And then within the realm of spirituality, we have to have spiritual consciousness, humility, and respect for another's happenings or situations. One of the things that when I was starting to go on this path of enlightenment and spiritual conscious contact with God, as I understand them, um, one of the things that you have to have is, faith and the ability for the master to teach you. Because some of us become unteachable. We become closed-minded. Now, yes, if you open your mind to spiritual teachings that are flawed, and then you can't feel the flaws in them, then, maybe for years, decades, you could be drawn into something that, you find yourself hard to disbelieve. And, I find myself when I talk to people of spirituality, I mean, I could get on the phone with them for 3 hours. And we're not really talking about, sometimes situations are important, and it's more important how you feel spiritually. I keep saying that word, but, some people, you know, uh, no, I have confused spirituality with religion. And I have found that they are two different constructs. Religion keeps you boxed in, where spirituality is the universe. And God being the creator of the universe and uh, wisdom that comes from the universe, I would take over anybody's written dogma and religion in a heartbeat. And I have studied Taoism, the truth, from the Book of Change, the I Ching. And, that book, it deals with, first you have to, in order for you to understand earth, you have to understand heaven. In order for you to understand heaven, you have to understand earth. And as it says, as above, so below. So all the things that we deal with on this earthly realm, or in this, or what happens in society, we have to understand that there's a spiritual connection that if you don't see it, can draw you and take you away from other possibilities. So, I think it's important that open mindedness and humility. And, when you humble yourself, it doesn't mean that you get on your knees and, anybody tells you something that you don't understand, that, it becomes a game of semantics. Because that's another thing that I don't like. I don't like semantics, because let's understand that uh, the European, let me give you an example of semantics. The European has uh, waged war on other cultures around the world because they felt that they had to, because they couldn't fairly compete for our resources without them, using uh, tactics that, in a way, confused the real situation, because they like to use, subterfuge in order to get what they need. They just can't come out and say, listen, we can't afford to evenly trade with you because we don't have anything that you need. So then they come in understanding that we're spiritual. They say they understand, have no understanding whatsoever. And then we are where we are. So, in a sense, in a nutshell, spirituality is very simple to me. It's understanding yourself, understanding uh, where you are and where you want to be. Peace, truth, and blessings. I hope this has helped somebody.